and just let me know if things are going well, because we'll have a bit of a pre prep. The music is for you only, right? So if you need to mute the music yourself, it's not something I control.
Oh, vibe into that.
Which it'd help.
Really loud. Joined and it's like, whoa.
Hide all my extra discords in a folder. OBS looks good. Audio levels looking good. If someone could type in the chat when they get on, we'll let people roll in for a bit, and I'll see if you can see on the stream, YouTube stream actually, that what it will look like. Me trying to fit in, like, maybe have it because I got the compact mode. There we go. People getting hype. Hello, welcome.
I hid in the chat.
Yeah, the chat might go away when I full screen, but actually no. There we go, Matt. You just have to really go to. You can see on the YouTube stream, really at the top. I don't understand
Speak
why
like this the whole time.
why Discord does
Interesting.
this. It's like why are you so like why are you not? Is it something I can do or
So good.
like that isn't as good as well because then it's like you're at the equal height. So it's okay. It's the first one ever. We'll get through it. Can you imagine? I just full screen your webcam that no one sees the talk. It's just you talking randomly
Beautiful.
into the void. Yeah, well, let people roll in for a bit. 5 minutes. I'm gonna just quickly check my Discord settings, just in case I've set anything that's making stuff compact. Oh, whoa, maybe that was it. All right.
Should put myself on busy on this call, I suppose.
Well, that's interesting.
Okay.
Welcome, folks. Yeah. Get rolling in. We'll go start in about 2-3 minutes as we go through things. If you're on the YouTube stream, just let us know how things go, how the audio levels are, how Matt's are. I'm not going to be speaking after this, but I'll be watching the chat. Hey, Milkmaster69.
What a name.
What a name. We get debated with names. There is a way actually that I could. Yeah, actually, this might work.
Always cooking.
Find out how to swap taskbars. Because on the other monitor, you actually come out perfect size. Yes, I'm going to call you MM69. There's such a. I'm not going to get into Milkmasters. Now what I'm going to do is I am just going to literally swap the monitors just for this week. And then if I swap the monitors, things look a lot more normal. I think. Kind of look normal there. Yeah. All right, 1 more minute, folks, and we are getting started. Like it. Last chance to get in on the knowledge, even though it's going to be on the stream. Hey, Renzo. Right, so I'll just kick things off and then I will mute and we'll be good. So, welcome, folks. So, we usually stream on the Thursday and we're going to slot in for this week our first sort of guest talk, master talk, masterclass for the community. So, again, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in on YouTube. Also, our patrons are tuning in on the Discord and YouTube. To give you guys a quick sort of rundown of how things are going to go, I'm going to mute myself and let Matt do his thing. And then once he's finished his main talk, we're going to close the stream up. And if you are a patron, we're going to stay behind on the Discord and do a private Q&A and any sort of chat about that sort of stuff and work. So a big thank you to all the patrons that make this possible, these master talks and just the community stuff in general. Got lots of cats building up now on the Patreon, which is awesome. So if you're interested in that, just check out the YouTube links. Other than that, I am going to hand it over to my good friend Matt. Again, very first talk of EMC 3D. So thank you so much, Matt. I'm going to mute myself and you can take it away from here.
Wonderful, thank you. No pressure, but yeah, building it up. Right, hello, yeah. I'm Matt. Basically, I'm Matt. So yeah, basically, this talk is sort of breaking in, leveling up, and probably more insights from me, because that's probably a bit more interesting than the usual talks of this is how you break in. And I just want to note that I know at the moment breaking in is really tough, and there's a lot of layoffs and things, and somehow they're still happening, which just blows my mind. So there's loads of incredible developers out there. So yeah, super tough at the moment. I don't actually know a company that hasn't laid off or restructured or however they've worded it. But yeah, so I'm kind of hoping this talk will be useful for sort of all range of levels. So I've tried to keep it fairly high level. So if you're sort of looking to break in, or if you're in a current role and you're like, I want to get that next level up, I want to know what I can do to kind of progress. And even if you're a lead, hopefully you kind of go away thinking, maybe I can incorporate how I apply feedback to people, or anything like that, anything that I kind of covered today. So yeah, I'll just crack on with the quick slides. I'm going to try and power through this. I've got loads to talk through. So yeah, a mini introduction. I was a part-time lecturer before I was at Flix, and I was also alumni of Staffordshire University. I think they're the University of Staffordshire now. They might have changed their names. So yeah, with Elliot, of course, used to teach with Elliot. I'll go through my little process, my little journey into the games industry in a second. But I just wanted to show you my lovely little dogs. Absolute dog lover here. So Wally and Posy. So Wally's the little darker dog there with the grey sort of male pattern. I thought that was quite a funny picture just to share with everyone of him looking down when I was taking photos of him. And then we've got Posy, who's the little white Bichon cross toy poodle, and Wally's a toy poodle with long legs. And she's sort of half brown in that photo in the mud. You don't really get a white dog in the winter, to be honest. So I thought that was quite nice to share. And I don't know who the dog in the suit is, to be honest, but we'll let that horrendous joke slide. So yeah, my journey into the industry. So basically, I'm a little bit. I didn't go straight in, right? I was not quite as lucky as you would like to smoothly move in. But I had the opportunity to be a part-time lecturer at Staffs, like I said. And yeah, it was very daunting to start with. I had a lot of imposter syndrome and was sort of like, I've literally just finished this course and now I'm going to keep teaching it. It was a bit sort of like, whoa, bit of a 360 for me. And I wasn't a very confident speaker at the time. So yeah, it was a very daunting kind of like a experience. But they're kind of the opportunities that you got to take and embrace and just be like, it's what I want to do. I want to go for it. But it has it has its pros as well. So I was a bit more younger. Sorry, Elliot. So a bit more relatable. I was a bit more relatable to the students, I think. So I feel like they could approach me a bit more and be like, I'm actually stuck on this. So that was quite nice. I had a lot of students say like, thank you for helping me, and like, don't know, I just think I relate a bit more because you kind of just finished the course, so you're sort of fresh, and they can see that and they can make a bit of a connection with you. And again, like I say, a bit up my confidence, sort of presenting, speaking to large groups of people, and sort of leading a team, which sounds weird, but you're sort of leading the class. I always treat them as my team, sort of you see them as your team almost because you want them to do well. And I kind of carry all this stuff over to Flix as well. So um, this is a good segue to get into the Flix bit. So yeah, I'm currently a level 1 artist, which is sort of like a mid-level. We have sort of 2 levels for a mid-level. So I started off as a junior, and then it goes level 1, level 2, senior, and then I guess like lead and stuff from there. So yeah, sort of a mid-level-ish kind of artist at Flix, and we're just called artists, right? So we kind of work on a range of specialisms. So we do a bit of props, environments, vehicles. We've done quite a few of those, and just material creation, anything can kind of help out with our code development. And Flix as a whole is mainly a code development studio. We've worked on a variety of projects. There's so many to list off, and there's so many I can't say. But the main ones, of course, for me is like Sniper Elite 5, the DLC. We built a giant ship for that, so that was really fun to play and to make. And also we have an internal sci-fi IP, which is all I can say about that. And also we've worked on some military FPS titles. And there's a few more in between, which kind of hush hush right now. So I will save the NDAs, that's for sure. But yeah, in my sort of 2.5 years in here, I've worked on 5 projects. So I've been bouncing around a lot, which is nice. I enjoy bouncing around. It keeps it a bit more interesting. But some have been more permanent, some have been a bit more temporary. It's kind of like where you might be needed in your projects. And just want to note as well, there has been a few cancelled projects, which does suck. But you kind of got to detach yourself from it. I'm going to be covering all the little bits in between this, but yeah, things get cut all the time in this industry, and the more you can sort of adapt, the better time you'll kind of have. Which sounds a bit negative, but it's all fun. It's all fun, I promise. I was going to go over hard skills and kind of break these down, but I kind of want to focus on the soft skills, but I will cover this very briefly. So these, obviously, hard skills are skills that can be taught or sort of gained through experience. And it kind of is one of the main things in sort of a team situation, right? So if someone's better at sculpting rocks, obviously they should probably do that. And for example, I'm probably a bit better at the hard surface stuff, so I'd take on more hard surface work. So yeah, it's kind of where your skills slot together. But I'm not going to cover these so much, to be honest. So I'm going to kind of skip through to the soft skills because I think these are a lot more harder to kind of get right, or it works better to try and break these down so you can actually see a bit more sort of how your personality and how your work ethic can actually affect your job role. Because like I say, I've got like a little bit here. It says good art gets you noticed, right? You know when something looks good because you're like, God damn, like all the Assassin's Creed stuff that's dropping out at the moment. It's like, oh, this looks so good. So yeah, that's going to get you noticed, right? Or if you've got a really good portfolio piece, it's going to be noticed. But being a great artist is what keeps you hired. So it's kind of a bit different. Usually I think art and artist is sort of hand in hand, but I've kind of separated them in this kind of talk. And also, just a little note is your ability to explain your thought process is just as important as the art itself. So I'm going to cover these instead this talk. Otherwise, I'll be here for probably too many hours rambling away. So yeah, I'm going to go straight in with. Is that the first one? Nope, I did 2. Wonderful. Communication. So this kind of goes hand in hand with teamwork. I feel like communication's a bit better to talk about, because teamwork is kind of just like you need to work well in a team and you need to communicate. So it's kind of like, it's the same. So yeah, I guess the first point of this is a bit of an interesting one to start with, but learning to speak both artist and producer. So being able to sort of communicate with leads and producers effectively will help everyone basically, not only to get along but also build up the trust with each other. So the classic example is a producer will come to me and go, how long do you think making X, Y, or Z will take? And I'm gonna have to sit there and go, I think it'll take this long, and that's quite hard to do, sometimes anyway. Especially in a production setting, because you might think, I've got to make sure I have time for feedback for any changes. So having a good sort of producer and artist talk. So it's kind of hard to explain, to be fair. If you're unsure, basically, then raising it is one of the main things that you want to sort of make sure you do. And also, the more you do sort of timelines and stuff like that, you're going to build up the trust. So next time the producer will ask, say you gave a timeline for task X and you've like nailed it to the T. Next time someone asks, the producer will ask like, oh, how long will task Y take? And you're like, it'll take this. And they can go, okay, I know you're going to get that work done by that time. So if there's anything extra I can add on or anything, he's got some wiggle room basically. So yeah, point 2 is sort of good communication prevents bad assumptions. So it's kind of vague, that one, but basically I'm going to be repeating myself probably quite a lot. But if you're unsure on anything, basically just ask, right? So it's better to get the worries and uncertainties cleared up as quickly as possible to get you back to making the wonderful art that you want to make all day, every day. So yeah, I've had it before where tasks are sometimes assumed to be one thing, and then it's like, actually, it is something else. And that does happen. You kind of just have to sort of deal with it as a team. But it's always good to question things earlier rather than later, so you can hit those sort of maybe rough patches before. A good example maybe is you need to make something to what we will call an L2, which is sort of like not a finished product, a sort of a color box, maybe with some secondary details potentially. Depends how far you want to take it. And then actually they're like, we actually want these as like a final quality asset, and you're like, oh god, okay, we didn't plan that in. So yeah, good communication prevents these kinds of things. Another thing is explaining your thought process. Basically, don't just show and tell why. And then I realized this contradicts with my last point, which is be concise. So explain, but be concise. So it's kind of a balance. But basically, I'll kind of blend these two last points together. But being able to explain your thoughts is just as important as sort of making great art. So this will really help with teams if you trying to problem solve one thing, which is my next point. But if you're trying to problem solve one thing and you can explain your thought process and you can also show it, that's usually pretty important, because a lot of us artists are like visual learners, right? You can't just sit there and go, have you just read the Confluence page? Because you'll sit there and be like, maybe I have, but I still don't get it. It's just, if someone's asking you, then yeah, you can say, instead of just going, have you read the Confluence page? You can go, hey, here's the Confluence page, but happy to help still and explain it to you. So yeah, and then when you're being concise with things, you kind of keep the interest right. So long-winded explanations, that's a big word for me, lose interest. So probably what I'm doing now. Keeping things simple, almost bullet pointed, and you can leave the longer explanations for when people have questions. My dog just came in, and probe you to dive deeper. That's when you can start explaining, I would have thought. So that's quite good for anything from feedback meetings. If someone's asked you to break something down, keeping it nice and to the point. to start with, and then kind of like, if there are any questions on anything, and when then the questions get asked, you can then go into a longer explanation and breakdowns of that. So yeah, kind of speedrun these because there is a lot. So next point, or next main pillar, we can call them pillars if you'd like, is problem solving. So this is basically your job as an artist. You're always problem solving, whether that's topology, how things are put together. I can't even think. My mind's gone blank. But your whole work is problem solving. How am I gonna set dresses with the assets I've got? How many textures can I use? What's the TD? All these things, all the things you're problem solving. Some of these will be solved for you. Like text density is probably project wide, unless maybe you're doing weapons and bits like that. There's some leniency there, but yeah, this can kind of range from more technical to artistic problems. I've kind of split them up a bit like that in my head. And yeah, this is kind of coming on to be a bit more important, especially with newer technologies such as sort of nanite and lumen and things like that, where there's a lot of info coming out quite recently, to be fair, but before that it was very much like you just gotta find out, you gotta solve these things. So yeah, so I'll go through the points for these. So every artist can make things look good, and problem solvers make things work. Sounds a bit obvious, but for an artist side of things, like I say, figuring out how you're gonna get the topology, how you're gonna smooth your assets, that's technically a problem solver, right? And basically, another thing for this point would be like picking up a tool. Maybe there's been a tool made by tech art or materials from material artists, and being able to play around with its values and see how it works and how to break it, and basically saying to yourself, okay, this is a problem in front of me. How am I going to make my assets for this material? Maybe it's a RGB mask, maybe it's some vertex colors, or maybe it's some nanite, something else. Who knows? God knows how projects are set up sometimes. But yeah, that's a problem for you to solve, essentially. Point number 2 is thinking ahead and anticipating problems before they happen. And it is how you stay ahead in production. That is an important point. So basically, again, it kind of goes back to asking questions early, and being able to ask these questions and give your team or lead sort of a heads up on where things might fall, or might fail, or where you might get some friction, or there's some blank spaces where you're like, I don't actually know how to go from a high poly rock to a low poly rock. I don't know the process of that. Not saying I don't personally, but just as an example. And yeah, that's something you can question and raise and be like, I don't know how to do this. Can we help solve this? So those important questions like that are not just important for you, but for the project and the team as well. Because you never know, you'll learn something new, and you might find something, and then you'll be like, "Oh, did you know about this?" And then the other person will be like, "Oh, no, that's really cool." So yeah, it's very important to ask these questions and think ahead. A little personal note as well. I like having more than one task on me, or unless it's a big task, I like having a big chunk of work. So I don't feel. I mean, obviously, you kind of get used to how much workload you can take, but I almost like don't feel afraid to ask what's coming next as well. And yeah, I always want to think ahead. I always want to problem solve the next thing once I'm over the hurdle and I know what I'm doing. Unless your task is pretty big, you can't really get away with that. Point number 3, a good artist finishes the task. A great one asks, what could go wrong? Again, asking questions. It speeds you up and hits your problems quicker. Meaning you can start solving them quicker. I think I've already mentioned that. It kind of goes back to any concerns or blockers that you might hit early. Even if they're solved by anyone else, don't be afraid to ask. Obviously, you're going to ask if you don't know, and that's always good. And if someone solved it, then skipping a step. You're going on to the next problem. You're going to hit the problems quicker. It's like a whole cycle. It goes round and round. So yeah, that's kind of that for that point, I suppose. And then every problem has multiple solutions, and the best solution balances quality, time, and resources. So this is probably a bit more on the technical side. So tapping into that kind of mindset, if you can create a solution for something that gives you the quality of work that you need whilst being quick and with minimal resources in this case is most likely going to be people. That's a huge win, right, for everyone, for the project, for the team, for, it's going to make your team look good. It's going to make maybe the client impressed, if the client being who we outsource to. It's just been a word that's kind of latched onto my vocabulary. You want to try and do the best for them, and the best for you as well, because you'll then bring in more work, and also a good example for me recently is doing some baking in Blender, and we basically need to add the vertex colors to a mesh, and you have to go through each mesh one by one. And I was like, what? Why do you have to go through each mesh? Think how many meshes you got in some of these. So I basically just did a little bit of coding. I've dabbled in a bit of a Python recently, which is lovely. I just made a button. So you select your things, you click the button, and it adds your vertex colors. So that's saving a load of time, like an absolute load of time. And also, it's only taken me 10-15 minutes to write that bit of code, and the amount of time balance that you're saving, I've already got that back like tenfold. So yeah, but that doesn't mean that that's the best solution, right? A few seconds. That doesn't mean that's the best solution or the only way of solving that problem. The important thing is that it's at least a step towards a new, towards like a final version, I suppose. So yeah, not every problem can be solved, perfectly each time. You can take steps or smaller steps in between. You're going to get closer each time, and you're just going to chip away at the time it takes to produce an end product or your artwork. So yeah, that's a nice little important tip at the end. Flexibility. This is where it gets starts getting a bit beefy in the old slides. So yeah, flexibility. It doesn't mean saying yes to everything. I have been a bit of an advocate for that. I'd be like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I'll take that on. It just means I don't do that so much now, because I've realised it kind of means being able to adapt without losing focus. If you're taking on loads of stuff, you don't want to be like, yeah, and then go, oh my god, I've got so much work to do. Like, I've got to try to get this done by next week or whatever. And yeah, you're going to start losing focus because you got too much on your mind. You're going to want to be trying to get through everything quickly. So yeah, I think managing your workloads comes sort of hand in hand with that, but that kind of comes with time, right? So if you've got the experience there already of, I know how much work I can kind of manage, I know I should give myself a bit more leeway if I don't know something. That's you being flexible and adapting. So yeah, it's good to be aware, basically, that flexibility does not mean more workloads, but the ability to pivot to maybe more important tasks, such as bugs, issues, or any sort of high priority task that might come in. Maybe someone needs an asset because it's like in a cinematic scene, and they're like, "Oh, I really want this, I don't know, wine bottle on this table or whatever, and I want to get it in." But yeah, it's okay to say yes as well, but make sure you kind of scope it with your workloads and have those conversations with your leads and producers, and just be like, "Yo, I think I can take this on. I think it'll take this long. What do you think?" And have those conversations. That kind of goes back to the artist production sort of mindset conversations that you should make sure you have, because it's important. It's important to have this. Another thing that kind of comes with this point, oh, it's just getting juicy, is to avoid burnout on these kind of things. So if you've taken on a load of work before and then you're like, oh, I kind of don't want to take on that more workloads, I want to try and keep focused on this current task, say no. Just say no. Because looking after yourself, it should always come first. And yeah, if you do the extra work, it's always good to try and take it back if you can. So I know sometimes it can be a bit sort of like, right, I just need to get this in because I'll work the extra 20 minutes. I do that a lot. But yeah, it's always good to make sure you look after yourself. That's the main thing. Second point is be ready to swap hats. So today's prop artist could be tomorrow's environment artist. If you're in a bit more of a bigger studio, you might just be your prop artist, your environments, your materials, your lighting, for example, for Elliot, and that's all you do. But there is, well, us at Flix, we kind of hop around things. So you might have, I'll get my task list through for the next sprint, and it'll be like you've got 3 props and like an environment to set dress for a week or two. And you'd basically, obviously, priority would come first, but you'd basically manage your time on that. And I quite like that. I like mixing it up a bit. Some people would be like, "Oh, I have to do environment art," or "Oh, I have to make props." Like, nah, I don't want to do that. But yeah, it's important to be flexible on these things for you and for the team, and the project as well. So yeah, it's being able to kind of adapt and learn on the fly, and also be lenient. Be lenient. Be someone you can lean on is probably what I meant to say. For the team is pretty important. I'm just gonna have a sip or a drink. Beautiful. Right, number 3. Let's move on. Clients, especially leads, change their minds, adapt, iterate, and keep moving forward. This can get frustrating, but no, it's all good. You kind of just got to take it on the chin and be like, cool. Feedback comes in, changes get made, gameplay changes. There's everything's moving at different paces, right? And it does just happen all the time. The important thing is being able to take it on board and move forward with your work is important. You can't really sit on changes for too long. In fact, I don't think I ever have, but I know some people can sit there and go, "Oh, this has changed again. Why has this changed?" And they start questioning things, and you just kind of be like, "Oh, it's changed. What's changed? How can I adapt? How can I fix this? How can I work with this?" Um, so yeah, try not to get stuck on the whys and hows, or just need to look at what's changed. Let's keep going. We got this. We're a team. Bring everyone together. Um, Maybe that makes your previous work obsolete or not as high quality. Maybe there's been more props made since you set dress the last areas, so the last areas look a bit kind of ass, and you're like, I want to bring that up to scratch now. Like, oh, God's sake. But that's just a process of iteration, right? There's nothing that can't be sort of updated in a second pass, or even with a clean slate. So maybe you've got a personal project, maybe, or there is a project, for example, that may have been made over sort of multiple years, and you're not really getting anywhere, or multiple months or weeks, however long you want to kind of expand that time. And basically, what if you just started with a clean sort of clean slate, and you're like, I like this, take the things you like, and you're basically cutting all the rubbish out. So it's going to speed you up sort of 2 to 3 times faster, let's say. It's not an official statistic, rather than trying to polish like stuff that doesn't work. So yeah, it can be a bit cutthroat at times, but sometimes it's good to take a few steps back, to take a few steps forward, or more steps forward quicker. Wonderful. And then the last point here is staying open to new tools and workflows. I went a bit extreme. This was with this little one and saying today's industry standard may be obsolete in the near future. I feel like it's not going to drastically change too much. Maybe Epic might surprise us with like Nanite 5.0 or whatever on now, Nanite 2.0, and we'll be like more polygons. That kind of happened with Megalites recently. I'm sure Elliot has some good stuff on that. But yeah, it's like megalites. I can place lights everywhere. Well, but it's the same as nanite, right? Everyone's like, I can place geometry everywhere. But however many years down the line, and we're still sort of like, so how does this work? How can we make it performant? So yeah, it's quite funny, quite funny. But yeah, being open to new tools and workflows is important, especially with Unreal. Being in the know of small bits of knowledge or upcoming changes to your project is also important for you, or the team, to work sort of effectively and to kind of make the most use of the new workflows and tools at your disposal. So if you found a new like button in Blender, which we still find all the time, we're like, I didn't know you could alt drag like a select multiple meshes, alt drag a modifier like a bevel modifier, and it offsets them by the same. It's like, what? I didn't know that. And then you're like, hey, did you know about this? And then the other person's like, no, I didn't know that. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. But yeah, keeping up to date with that, or even a new workflow. So maybe, I mean, everyone kind of knows it, but let's say you found out about the weapon workflow in ZBrush, where you can polish your edges and bits like that, and you can be like, you can share that with your team, and you're growing together then, and it's probably quite good for the project as well and speed up production. But yeah, there's so many workflows that have been made already. So you got like parallax occlusion, nanite, trim sheets, edge decals. Go on forever, but I think what's important is having some basic knowledge of them, because they kind of tackle different challenges. So yeah, that's important to kind of show, that on your portfolio, or maybe if it comes up in an interview and you can break down your art, you can start using some of those buzzwords and hopefully stand out a tad more from the rest. So yeah, flexibility, big slide, that one. It's fun to be flexible. Next slide, constructive feedback, another big one which I really want to touch on, because there's so many little ways you can tweak giving feedback and receiving feedback to make it work better for you. I've been kind of on both sides of this, so yeah, this is gonna get a bit juicy, but yeah, it's not like I'll go straight into the first point. It's not like a personal attack, right? I'm not giving feedback about you. I'm giving you feedback about the art. Having that distinction between giving feedback about someone's art and giving feedback about someone is obviously completely different. When you say it like that, obviously it is. But some people would be like, "Oh, he doesn't like my work because I made it." It's like, no. Don't take it like that. But yeah, it comes hand in hand usually with egos a little bit, which you should probably leave that out of the way. I think if you have an ego in the industry, it's usually people won't really want to sort of chat to you much or get your opinions. Just like, cool, this guy's doing his own thing. Not really a team player either, but yeah. But I think the most important thing is giving positive feedback or reinforcement is like just as important, or if not more important, than just giving negative criticism. If there's anything you take away today, and maybe you're a lead and you're like, that's a good idea, maybe I should give more positive feedback. It's just please do it. Even if you do a positive, what is it, a rubbish sandwich or whatever it is, a positive sandwich, I don't know what it's called, or a rubbish burger, I don't know what you call it. But yeah, basically it's like a positive, then your negative, then the positive at the end. Even if you just take that on and start implementing that, is super important. Because knowing what you're doing right is just as important as knowing what you need to change, right? So you can keep doing more of that. Also, it makes you feel good, right? You feel like you're getting a compliment. It keeps your morale of your team up. If they feel like they're getting complimented, like, Elliot really liked my rocks that I did, but he said maybe the cracks are a bit, maybe a bit too curvy, so I can change them. But he really liked my silhouette. Do you know what I mean? So having that sort of, this looks really great. I'm not sure on this. I'm not sure on the cracks. I'm not sure on how curvy they are, but silhouette looks ace. Do you know what I mean? Like stuff like that is so important. So you can keep working on the good stuff and changing the bad stuff. Otherwise, it's just no. Silhouette looks pretty rubbish. I probably would avoid the word rubbish, but you could probably change silhouette cracks don't look realistic to me, and maybe the forms of the rocks are off, and you kind of sat there like, so there's nothing good. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of take a bit of like, damn it. But yeah, anyway, that's one big thing I hope everyone can take on. It's making sure you give a bit of positive feedback back. Also, on the other side of things, I want to point to is if you're receiving feedback, everyone's guilty of this, defending their work and being like, well, it's in the reference, and that's what the client wanted, and that's what they said. You know, sometimes you want to take the time to sort of listen first, just sit back and go, here's my work, what do you think? And receiving hopefully some good and some negatives, you can sort of take that all down, note that all down, and just say like, hey, this is cool. Maybe go grab a cup of tea and let it sink in, and then come back and you can be like, right, I know what I've got to do. It's not about me. It's about the work. I need to get these cracks in my rocks. Just rolling with that for now. Cracks in my rocks look a lot more sharp and maybe a bit more straight or jagged, or whatever the feedback was. Sorry, just reading my notes. It's great to have reasons why you're doing things a specific way. Never mind, I've already said that. I've skipped ahead of my notes so much. There we go, cool. So receiving feedback and giving feedback, it doesn't mean that every piece of feedback is correct, right? It's always good to get multiple people's opinions, because feedback is essentially opinions. It's an artistic vision that they want you to change, essentially. It's good to get multiple views, basically, so you can find common problems that could be improved. So maybe Elliot doesn't like my curved cracks, but my good friend Simon or Carl or whoever will be like, oh no, I really like the curve. I think it adds some character. And maybe they'll say, your forms look off though. So it's like, okay, my forms are definitely off. They've both said my forms are off, so I need to look at my forms. And then you can kind of be like, what kind of style am I going for with the cracks? So yeah, it's a sort of a juggling act. But yeah, it's good to get a second opinion as well when you're receiving feedback, and just don't take it to heart. It's about the work and not you. Bottom left, great artists seek feedback early and often. Waiting till the end invites disaster. So I hope this is fairly obvious, but let's say you get to the end of your task and you're like, right, feedback time, and you're like, final mesh is ready, all textured and nice, and they go, I think we should change the silhouette, or I think we need to add more detail, or take some detail out, and you're like, maybe you've baked the asset, maybe it's all textured nice. You're at the final point. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to go back and do that. But I think the best thing to do is take maybe at the correct milestones. After you block out how the form's looking, after the sort of second pass or first pass, whatever you want to call it, how the secondary details looking, and then usually you'd have sort of like a tertiary pass, and get more feedback there before you maybe texture, at a minimum. So yep, but any feedback in between is like a huge bonus, right? Probably quite an obvious one, but I just want to put that in there. Don't be afraid, basically, to get eyes on your work, get that feedback down. The same, it goes back to the problem solving, that the sooner you can hit those walls, the sooner you can hit those problems, the quicker you can solve them before it sort of slows down, or you have to go back and you're losing time because you're constantly going back to older meshes, older backups, and changing the work that you've done. So yeah, number 4 at the bottom right. Good feedback is, I've just lost my slide. Oh, they are. What are we on about? Good feedback points out problems. Great feedback suggests solutions. So yeah, it's all good saying, yeah, your cracks are too jagged, or your cracks. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Your crocs, because I'm thinking rocks. Your cracks are too jagged, too curved, even. Maybe just saying that's cool. Sometimes people want a bit more guidance, right? So knowing when to suggest solutions is important as well when you're giving feedback. And also when you're getting feedback, don't be asked to ask like, how would you do that? How could I make my cracks not as curved? Things like that. And hopefully the person who's giving you feedback will know. It's okay to not know as well, but giving a solution or suggesting a solution is like the next step of feedback. It's easy to point out what's wrong, and most of the time artists already know what's wrong. But basically, suggesting a solution will help them and you improve because they might point out, actually, I'd go about this way, and you could be like, oh, I can do it that way next time because now I know how to do that. So yeah, I think as well, there's one last little point when you're asking for feedback. It's always good for you to point out what you already know is wrong. So then anyone you're getting feedback from can be like, okay, he knows his cracks are curved. That's cool. He's going to straighten them. I can kind of ignore that for now. I'm going to give feedback on whatever else I see, which is sort of like I don't really know if it's going to work with the art style or how he should potentially or they should potentially do it. So yeah, feedback important. As a lead, make sure it's positive as well as negative, or as a senior, whatever role you're going for. Yeah, so much better when you get positive feedback. Next slide is a little bit more complicated. So professionalism is the next pillar, and we'll go straight in with be easy to work with, of course. Skills open doors, but attitudes keep them open. So it's easy to be like, yeah, I'm pretty good at my job, I'm pretty skilled. Probably not a good attitude to have. But being leaving that ego at the door, essentially, you don't need an ego in this job. Having a good attitude, coming to work with like a positive attitude is important for not just you. Obviously, coming into work in a good attitude is really good. But also the team sort of morale. So if you're coming in every day going, oh, I can't be bothered today, and you're doing that consistently, it's easy for the other team members to be like, oh man, yeah, I kind of can't either. Do you know what I mean? It's easy to fall into that trap. Yep. So it's easy for you to have those skills that open those doors. Sorry, kind of tangent. But a good attitude makes you employable, right? So if you're in an interview and you kind of sit there slumped and you're kind of like, why do you want the job? Yeah, just because I want it, really. Like, obviously, that's not going to. I'm going extreme with this, by the way. That's not going to get you the job, essentially. You want to be there, like, yeah, this is why I want the job. I've got good attitude. I'm always positive. Bring a good attitude to work and all that stuff. Also, it'll rub off on other people, right? So if you're happy and ready to work and you're positive and you're like, right, we got this. We're gonna get this done today. Everyone's gonna be like, yeah, come on, let's get this done. I mean, it was like a rallied it up. You rally it up with everyone else. That's always a good one to point out. Being reliable and consistent, it earns trust. So that's my next point. Being reliable is not just about getting your work done, but it's also things like note taking in meetings and supporting with planning or general sort of team support. I've had it kind of recently where I've written some notes in my meetings and I'd post them at the end. So I'm like, well, nobody's been writing notes for these meetings. Everyone should probably have some notes somewhere. And it was very much like thanks for doing that, Matt. It's like, no worries. I thought this would be happening anyway. But yeah, so little things like that just give you the trust to take on your tasks. And basically, if you're given a task, they'll know now that I'll be taking notes on my meetings and I'll be doing these things because I consistently do it and I'm a reliable person. So yeah, it's kind of building that up over time, basically. And yeah, that's kind of that one. That's on my notes. So number 3 is showing up prepared. This is one of those hard ones where sometimes it's hard to prepare, but most of the time you should know your meetings in a day and kind of prep for that, or interview maybe. Basically being prepared for that, or maybe a talk. Being prepared for that day day or meeting or interview or whatever it is really important, right? Obviously, not doing this will make you look unprepared, obviously, because technically you are, and you won't look very reliable. 2 seconds. Wonderful. Yeah, so turning up to meetings, for example, with a plan, like if it's a sort of a show and tell meeting, sort of, I guess most of them are called in the games industry, I'm not sure. Turn up and you're like, right, I'm going to show you XYZ today. It's going to work, and maybe Elliot's showing his new Mega Lights lighting, for example. And yeah, that's a plan. That's good. You're both going in like, right, this is what we're going to show in this meeting. This is what we want out of it. Having that sort of little plan is really important, because it saves everyone's time as well, right? Everyone wants to get back to making the wonderful games that we all make, and having more time out of that and more time to meetings is a lot more sort of like, I'm on my next meeting now. So yeah, it's important. It can be even notes, just a couple notes of what you want to bring up or anything like that. It'll make you more concise as well. So you're not going, should I show this today? Actually, should I ask Elliot to show his lighting? I don't know. Does he want to show his lighting? He hasn't said anything to me. So it gets rid of that, and especially if you're sort of client facing, it can be a bit sort of like, do these guys want to be here, sort of thing. So yeah, and of course you guessed it, makes you more reliable. It's going to be an upcoming word of the talk, that's for sure. And then the last thing is a interesting one. So under promise, over deliver. Now that doesn't sound very professional, I know, but basically saying don't bite off more than you can chew. Because if you are doing that and then you're like, yeah, we can get that done, it goes back to flexibility, right? But on a bigger level, so going, yeah, we can do this whole area in 2 weeks, and then you pitch, well, not necessarily pitch, but you put it into the teams and you break it down, and you're going, that's a lot of work. I've agreed to it now. It's part of being professional. An important part, I can't get my words out, of being professional is pitching the correct amount of work that you or and slash all the team can do. And doing it consistently will mean that your client, that the client or your lead, if I get my words right, will build up sort of trust, again, leading back to the trust thing. They'll trust that you can get your work down and on time to deadline if you're consistently hitting those goals, and you're like, yeah, okay, he's consistently hitting these, he's given me the right timelines, maybe even under promising them, which is important, weirdly important, and he's he's gone that extra step, that it looks good on you, rather than going, they've promised us like a final quality art, and they've given us like a color blockout because they didn't run out of time. Obviously there's going to be conversations before then, hopefully, but having that sort of over deliver impact is important, and that's kind of like sounds a bit strange, but having that over delivery bit is important for you to basically look good and keep you consistent. So yeah, I'll do a little TLDR of this slide. So being positive and bring solid attitude to work, be reliable and consistent. It makes you trustworthy with your tasks and opinions. Show up prepared to meetings, work in general, and any other things in between. Take notes and all that stuff. Saves everyone time and will be appreciated. And also, just don't bite off more than you can chew, because it will make you look silly. Next slide is initiative. I don't actually know how long I've got left. Where are we up to? I don't know what the time is. Anyway, I'll carry on. because this started early. Right, so initiative. This is an interesting one. So it's kind of what you can do yourself if you're in a role, or even if you're outside of a role at the moment. Lots of controversial points I put on here. But the first one is don't wait for permission to add value. That's not necessarily adding content, but I'll get into that in a second. Be proactive, not reactive. That's quite important. And get permission later. Again, also highly controversial. We can go back to the example of my my little vertex color tool thing that I made for Blender, and I didn't necessarily get permission to do that. I didn't go, hey, can I take a bit of time to figure this out to speed us up? Then I'm not gonna lie, it's got to go through all the official channels, right? By the time I've got probably a task set up, things set up for that, it'll be done. So for small tasks like that, then yeah, probably just do it before you start work, or just take 10 minutes at the start of your day and just be like, I know what I want to do. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to come in, do it, save me all that time. So yeah, I guess that's what I mean by don't wait for permission to add value. Another thing to point out is maybe don't do this if you're kind of tight on deadlines or you have a lot of work to do already. Probably again quite obvious, but if you have sort of a lighter workload or you have time between your tasks, creating work for yourself that will help you, the project, the team. It's huge. It's knowledge. It's knowledge you can share. This doesn't have to be production related. My example was, so I sped up a bit of a workflow, but even just upskilling, learning new techniques are just important. Maybe you want to look at data layers in Unreal, or how level instances work, or how actor filters work, and just these little bits of knowledge that you can kind of share and pitch to a team. It's like, it doesn't feel like a lot, but it could be a big impact in the long run. Or even just how to sculpt not curved cracks in rocks. I don't know why that's become a thing in this talk, but we're rolling with it. So yeah, things like that you can upskill and learn sort of in your free time. Just stick a video on the background, or if you can do that. Sometimes I can't do that. But yeah, it's super important to take that initiative and do that. Not saying here to be a rebel and just go and do what you want, of course, but take the opportunity to do these extra little things and make you stand out a bit more and make you more, reliable again, of course, and all the bits in between. So next point is be the artist that asks what next, not the one waiting on a task list. So if you're sat there, I think I did this the other day, kind of coming up to the end of your tasks and you're like, I wonder what's next. Just ask. Don't finish your tasks and be like, well, I'll wait for my next task to come through now. I message my lead and be like, what's next now? Don't do that. Ask before your tasks finish. You always want to know what's coming up. Again, for problem solving, for all the other things I've spoken about in this talk. They should have hopefully somewhat of a plan, hopefully, on the next sprint or task, or give you a heads up at least. And again, like I say, it enables you to start problem solving, preparing mentally for that next piece of work so you can basically hit the ground running. And it also helps production to sort of plan that time out, and just a smoother transition rather than having that kind of almost sort of stop start, like what's next, I don't know, and then you get right up to your deadline, you sub, and then it's like this is next, and you're like, I had that time, I could have maybe upskilled or watched some videos. So yeah, that's important to constantly know what's upcoming. Point number 3 on the bottom left, small acts of initiative like improving workflow can have a huge impact over time. Kind of covered this already, but if you try and speed up your workflows, or it'll save a lot of time for your team. I think I've kind of covered this, to be honest. I'll give you a few more examples rather than my one. Simple. It can be as simple as sort of creating a smart material. So maybe you've got a debug for some of the bakes that you're doing, or maybe even an export preset. It's the first thing I do on a new project is like, right, what material setup have we got? I'll make some presets for it. Or even, maybe like me, if you're a bit more technically minded, some small scripts. I can't even say the words. To help automate some bits and help speed things up. Just a few ideas. There's loads of things out there you could probably do to help support the team. And I'll just move on to the bottom right. So being proactive shows that you care about the project success, not just your task list. So yeah, doing all these things, kind of said it there, shows that you care and you have a passion for what you want to do. It doesn't mean that the opposite isn't true. It doesn't mean the opposite is true. Don't know which way around I'm saying that. But basically saying it doesn't mean that you're not passionate if you don't do it. You can still have a passion for a project that you're working on and give it your all and not do as much initiative. Maybe because you're super busy. That's fine. I'm not saying this is like you must be initiative all the time. You must always be learning new things. In an ideal world, everyone would be sort of as proactive as possible. So if they do have a lighter workload, just having something you learn, you can all knowledge share. It's going to just speed everything up super quick. But that does, again, come down to sort of your workload and what you can kind of do in between. The little TLDR, I suppose. Be proactive, not reactive. So always, if you can always add value outside of your tasks if you have time for it, then go for it. Basically, ask difficult questions. It helps to find issues early. Is that part of this slide? Well, it's written down, so I said it again. Always ask questions. Always ask questions. It's even on the next slide. We love it. Take time between tasks to see where your workflows or work could improve. So if you've got time between tasks, make sure to take the initiative and learn. And proactiveness is quite a big one. It's almost like a separate thing, but being proactive helps to improve the project's successes and yours. Hello, dog. You're wonderful. And then next slide. We are nearing the end. I don't know how well I'm doing, but little slides. Just a few things I say to basically everyone in my team. There's no such thing as a stupid question, and it's okay to say that you don't know. They're the two most important things. I've had so many people, I say so many people, I've had a lot of times at work where people are like, I need to ask you a stupid question. I'm like, that's fine. There's no such thing as a stupid question. It's fine. And it's okay to say you don't know. I had someone recently ask me how to make something, and it was really simple. And he's like, I just don't know how I would go around about doing it. And it's like, that's fine. You're asking people questions. You're asking the right things. You're learning. You're taking the initiative to learn. Right? It's the main things. So yeah, that is kind of me. Done. Next slide. Of course, I have a picture of my lovely little dog who's just wandered out now. Yeah, that's me. I don't know what I'm just rambling now. Don't even know what I'm saying.
Good. It's all good. Let me just turn on my. Oh wait, I see right at the bottom of the screen. Is that me? Is that Low Folly Hagrid?
It's you. It's you. It's you if you were casted in the new Harry Potter. There you go.
There it is. Oh, let me turn my stuff back on for a quick sec before we finish up.
Go for it.
No, I thought that was really cool, man. Like, I think it stresses the importance of like we spend all this time as getting into the industry, right? Or people spend all this time getting into the industry, and then what happens to be the most important skill is once you're in, not so much the artwork, because you kind of know you're getting paid to be there, and you kind of have a general idea of how to make good work with professional feedback from your team. It's how you act, and the soft skills is a super important thing to kind of keep you in the job once you're in it as well. So yeah, some absolutely awesome quotes that I'm stealing. There was one you said specifically I really liked. I think it was in the second or third slide, something about is one of your very, what was it? It was like maybe it was the first slide, something about time, I think it was. But yeah, I'm gonna steal that one. I think I quoted it in the stream somewhere. Oh, and by the way, the term you're looking for the feedback is a shit sandwich.
I was trying to keep the language okay, family friendly. Rubbish
Oh,
burger's fine.
rubbish burger fine. Yeah, because artists are human at the end of the day, right? So if the
Yeah,
feedback
yeah,
is just
absolutely.
always what to improve, you're not
Yeah,
really going to build
it's so important.
a
So
pretty good
important.
team. Here it is. Don't defend,
Mm.
listen first, evaluate later. I'm stealing that one. That quote is gold. Yeah, don't defend,
That
listen
one. Yeah,
first, evaluate
yeah,
later. That's such a big one,
yeah.
especially
It is.
with students as well.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and it's
It's me too. Everyone
you
has their days though, right? Where they're like, no, I don't want us to feedback today.
yeah.
But
It's all
yeah,
about being a good
it's
person. Like
important.
at the end of the day, you're working 8 hours a day with these folks. There's going to be crunch now and then.
Yeah,
Things will get stressful. So if you're already not good to work with, it's going to be a pain. So yeah, I really loved the fact that you spoke about the soft skills um,
yeah.
for
I think
like this
it's more
talk.
important. You don't hear it as much. It's easy to be like, oh, you should improve in your modelling or X, Y, Z. But
Yeah.
hopefully, it's helpful for anyone looking for jobs at the moment as well. You can start slotting some of these things in because it's a
Yeah.
bit harder to try and show these things. So
It's the thing not many people talk about because it's always focused on the
yeah,
art. So it's how you're actually to
yeah,
work with,
absolutely.
which is awesome. Great, awesome. Well, I'm gonna quickly finish up here, and then we've got the patrons in the channel. I'm gonna put those guys up to voice, and you guys can ask your questions, and we'll see how Matt is doing for time. But in the meantime,
Yeah, good.
folks that are on the stream, thanks very much for popping by. I will be back next week for the Thursday stream. You'll be able to watch the VOD of this talk as well. And all in all, thanks for tuning in. And I'll see you guys on the Discord if you're Patreon. If not, I'll see you next week in the stream.